everyone. I am Pamela from the registration desk of Victoria Literacy Center. Just letting you know that registration has been extended to the 19th of September. So parents, what that means is if you are registering your child for full-time school with VLC or even additional classes to reinforce what is being offered in public schools, your child will have access to virtual live sessions as well as access to online resources based on the Ministry of Education curriculum requirements. So yes, there is still time for you to register your child. You can send us a message or contact our office at 272-1987.
Welcome to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. This talk show is presented each week by host Alina Lewis and features guests from our Caribbean islands right here on this channel. As we discuss family finances, proverbial principles, child guidance, and academics at home, guests join in weekly to have conversations that give helpful tips about how to be a better parent. Like, subscribe, follow, and share as you tune in each week for new episodes of the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. Hi, good evening, and welcome to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. Through this platform, we have conversations that give helpful tips about how to be a better parent each day. And today we are extraordinarily excited to have visiting with us and joining in virtually on the conversation once again, Andrea Gopaul. She is a guidance officer and she spends time with us ever so often, checking in to share some awesome information. And this evening, we're chatting about supporting positive parent relations. And we're really excited to be chatting about this topic because even in this COVID recovery world, we're finding that there's so much isolation that is happening. Students are no longer at school, adults are experiencing restrictions. Families can no longer call the cousins together and say, let's go to the beach. Even now, we have all of these things to deal with in response to COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago and even in the wider Caribbean. So we're really excited to have Andrea joining us this evening as we talk about supporting positive pair relations and really helping parents to understand not only for them as adults and parents, but so too how they can encourage their children and their teens to have positive pair relations. So Andrea, hi, and welcome as always to Caribbean Parenting.
Hi, it's great to be on once again. Good night, all our viewers.
And it's great to have you. So happy to have you. Really excited. So, we're starting off the discussion and the focus is the whole notion of supporting positive peer relations. But even before we step into the deeper elements of the supporting or the positive, I would love if you would take a moment to go through just the idea of peer relations. And when we talk about peer relations, what is important to understand? And moreover, what should parents understand about peer relations?
Excellent. It's an excellent choice of topic. I cannot cease to be amazed about the topics that you choose.
Yeah.
So absolutely relevant. So I think I would begin with a definition of peer relations. So peer relations is really social interactions with someone at your own level. So basically it's you're interacting with someone who is of equal standing in a group. Sometimes we get thrown into peer groups as a matter of opportunity. For example, you get thrown into a class, you don't really have a choice, or you may be doing some athletics, or you may be in a peer group because you have similar likes, for instance, the same type of music, or in some social media groups. So that is what relating to our peers mean. As adults, we relate to our peers as well, work colleagues, neighbors, and whatnot. When we think of peer relations, generally we think of the negative aspects of peer relations. But each person is impacted differently by peer relations. Some actually seek the input of their peers, and some with a different type of personality, more introverted, may actually avoid interaction with their peers. So, peer relations, for instance, in a school setting, may happen on the broader basis, like your class, or through cliques. A clique is a small, highly interactive group, or through crowds. For example, on the social media, it has to do with larger groups, and there's more emphasis on reputation rather than shared activities. Peer relations is actually something very important because it promotes social and emotional competencies or skills. For instance, it may be skills of getting along, making friends. These are all things that we learn in relating to our peers. We learn how to control feelings of aggression. We learn how to solve problems that may arise out of social interactions. For instance, conflict management skills. Younger children learn how to share, learn how to apologize, and especially it's important at school in the aspect of group work and cooperative learning. So those are some of my initial thoughts. And one more thought.
Yeah.
As children enter into the school setting, the family influence decreases, or at least plateaus, in importance to that of the peer. The peer influence becomes stronger, especially as children get older, and in adolescence, it is absolutely very strong. And children actually eventually choose their peers above parents and teachers.
So, two things that stand out that I want to ask you about. Firstly, you went through a whole lot of reasons why peer relations is important. And so, one of the things that stood out to me is the idea that a lot of times adults, parents tend to think about peer relations as in we just want them to interact. We just want them to have friends. But really, what I'm gathering from what you've shared so far is that encouraging peer relations is more than just wanting your kids to have friends. It's more than just wanting them to have something to do. But there are skills that children develop that are developed through their peer relations that don't necessarily come through other channels. Is that accurate?
Definitely so.
I understand. Mm-hmm.
It's very important. It's like part of the unwritten curriculum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So even as we move forward, is it then in looking at peer relations and all of the benefits that are experienced by encouraging peer relations, is it fair to say that parents during this time really should have an eye out for isolation and experiences of isolation where children are just by themselves at all times?
Definitely. But I know that we'll explore that part later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But for now, we're saying yes, it's definitely almost like a red flag for us to be able to consider.
Well, yes, I would answer that question by referring to a very popular theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So at the very bottom of the hierarchy of needs, we have our basic needs: food, clothing, shelter,
Yes.
whatever. And then safety, and we have the need for belonging and love.
Yes.
So this is where the peer relations is very important. Because,
Understood.
right, during the formative years, 10 and under, we tend to want to belong to the family. But as we grow and change and develop and get to different developmental stages, we will want to move away from the family.
Yeah. And is it fair as well to say, Andrea, that it means that parents should not be offended or hurt or worried when children get into that mode where they are choosing friends over family? Because based on what you're sharing, it sounds as though children starting to choose, as we would put it, friends over family seems to be somewhat of a natural progression. Is that true?
It is. It is. And I have had conversations with parents who are absolutely hurt and devastated that their child is now putting their friends above them.
Yes.
You know, the friend's opinion of what to wear, you know,
Mhm.
what to study, where to go is more important than the parents. And they feel there's a stage that psychologists talk about after 10 years old, especially with boys and mummies, that
Mhm.
where put a knife to the heart and ring it. It feels like that to the parent, you know, that
Right.
rejection, because you have loved and cared for this child. But
Yes.
one of the aims of parenting is to teach them social skills that will empower them for life. We are actually having to teach them how to fly, and we have 18 years to do it.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. So even as we continue chatting, Andrea, we want to look then at the impact of negative peer relations on children and teens. Because yes, it's so awesome. You shared all the great experiences that children and teens can have when there is positive peer relations, when the whole idea of peer interaction is working in the way that it should for the benefit. But in so many instances, this is not the experience. So, what can you share with us regarding the impact of negative peer relations on children and teens?
Hmm. Well, I wanted to share just a little bit more on the previous topic. Just, okay, let me go. For children and teens, the negative impact, um, especially for kids with special needs, uh, for example, ADHD, initiating and maintaining friendships may be challenging. So sometimes they get heckled or bullied. So that is a form of negative peer relations. As children grow into adolescents and college age kids, things like alcohol and drug use arise. And especially kids who choose an alternative form of sexuality than what is commonly accepted, they tend to face rejection by family and friends. So this also forms part of negative peer relations. We tend to have friends like ourselves. So adolescents who smoke, drink, fight, engage in sexual behavior tend to have friends who do likewise. And so this is some of the negative effects of pair relations. We tend, social learning theory teaches us that we learn through interaction with persons. And children, adolescents, teens, however we call them, they learn from their peers, they learn behaviors. And eventually, youth develop a kind of subculture of their peer group, behavior that is acceptable. So, if smoking and drinking is acceptable in that peer group, this is what you want to engage in,
Yes.
especially if the connection with the parent is not strong. The
Right.
resistance tends to be lower. Yeah.
I understand. So then, as we consider even the impact that negative peer relations have on children and teens, then how can parents encourage positive peer relations among their kids?
Um, among their siblings or among with other children.
In both instances. Yeah.
So parents, a part of parenting, when we think of parenting, we think of disciplining, making rules. That is what us as Caribbean parents think we have to do as parents. But a big part of parenting is teaching social skills. And social skills does make a big difference in school successes.
Right.
Some of the social skills I had mentioned earlier, like teaching them how to ask questions, teaching them, about cooperation and stuff like that. We can teach that. That is one of the things we can do. And we can teach that to smaller kids through stories, through role play and games. So we do have to take that opportunity. Parents are teachers. Parents are teachers, and they don't usually see themselves in that role.
Yes.
Yeah. Another way that parents can encourage positive pair relations is to provide positive opportunities for play and for interacting. Whether it is play dates or other opportunities for interacting. For instance, with older kids, you may want to provide them with an interaction opportunity with someone who is academically focused and goal oriented, to be like a mentor to them, or maybe an older child who can be a peer learner teacher situation.
Right.
So providing opportunities for them is important. And we can encourage our children to attend programs that teach responding assertively in situations where problem behaviors occur. There was one time I sent my kids to a day camp. It was teaching all about choices with sexuality and drugs and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was teaching them about the dangers and teaching them some skills in how to say no, how to stand up. If they did it or if they do it, I don't know. But at least I provided the opportunity for them to attend programs. Some programs that we may have very popular and common in Trinidad might be like police youth groups.
Right.
Church youth groups.
Yeah.
They usually have programs that teach you positive things. Another thing we can teach our children is help-seeking behavior.
Okay.
Sometimes we tend to feel ashamed to ask for help if we don't understand something in class, but we need to let them know that asking or seeking for help is a sign, it is a good social competence to have, and it actually increases your chances of academic success.
Okay.
Yes. So seeking out help, whether it be from your guidance officer, your school safety officer, a teacher, an older student, like a peer counselor. Yes, those are some of the ways that parents can encourage positive relations among their children. Another one is study groups.
Okay.
Study groups can be fun. Sometimes kids end up wasting time, but if we teach them how to be focused at it and to have a plan or an agenda for the study group with a time, that will encourage positive peer relations, because studies have shown that when we interact with other students who are inclined to the academics, it increases their level of interest, their competitiveness, and stuff like that. So study groups is really good. And remember, for children, students, they are very gregarious. I wanted to share a study
Okay.
that I found that it was done recently
Right.
during this COVID time.
Sure, great.
It was done by a PhD student, I think in New Zealand. It did research with 101 children around the world. And it was on listening to young people. It was a study on listening to young people. It said that closure of school had the biggest impact during this COVID time. And the isolation was appalling that the children felt. So the thing that they missed the most was meeting their friends face to face and spending time with their friends. That was the heart cry of a lot of the youth in this study. So even though they interact on their phone, and a parent in the study responded that their child spent most of the time in the room on the phone, the children still missed very much their friends.
Yeah, yeah. So even as we continue along, and I'm so glad you mentioned the impact as it pertains to COVID-19, because one of the things I wanted to be able to ask you is how can parents facilitate positive peer relations given the impact of COVID-19?
Mhm. So let me share a little bit more about the study.
Sure.
71% of students in the study said that they felt isolated and lonely. 91% felt like if their peer networks were dwindling. So this is affecting children much more than we know. So basically, during the COVID time, here we are seeing from the current research that isolation is a big problem. And this is something that we can help our children with now that we understand that interacting with their peers is such a big part of the experience. I have met parents who are appalled that their kids are staying up very late and talking and chatting on their phones with their friends and playing games. But this is what the children want to do. I think we have to come away from that era where children have to go to bed by 8 o'clock and wake up before the sun comes out, because this is a different day, this is a different time, and the children want to be together. Friendship is a coping mechanism. It is helping them get through this tough time. It's not only us as adults who are feeling the stress. We are feeling the stress because maybe we lost our job, or we lost our mobility to Lyme and, whatever. But for them, it is hurting them. The social distancing has been particularly hard for adolescents who are between 10 and 24 years of age, because the interaction with their peers is especially important and they need that social connection. So I underscore again, please allow your children to lessen their feelings of isolation and loneliness. by interacting with their peers over the social media. And the study also shows that they missed going out. They miss going out.
Yeah.
So allow them to use the social media as a tool for interacting, because remember that it is part of Maslow's hierarchy, the need to belong.
Yeah.
So they need that.
Okay.
What we can do is also, we can use peer influence to encourage young people to follow social distancing measures. In other words, give the whole social media a purpose, especially those kids who are social influencers.
Right.
Social influencers are kids who have a lot of followers on their social media. And those kids can actually make positive messages, with their TikTok or their Instagram or whatever,
Right.
encourage their other peers to follow the social distancing measures. Kids can also do things like anti-bullying campaigns among their peers, and campaigns against drugs, alcohol, and smoking. Because studies have shown that usually it is adults who speak down to children about these things, but the level of effectiveness when it comes from them. So they're home, let them do something good and creative, to make their world a better place. They could send pictures with them social distancing on Instagram. And we do, of course, have to. Another thing is online debates. That is another area where we could have them develop. Let the kids have a voice. We want to speak down to them. We want to tell them what to do, but they have opinions too.
Yeah.
So we can help them harness the social media to make a difference, a positive difference among their peers.
Yeah.
Through, it could be online debates about social distancing measures. So I'm giving you some ideas for some programs. Don't just bring us big folks, bring some little folks in too.
Yes.
So we want some teen activism. We want we want to hear their tiny voices. And as I always say, we need to listen to children and young people, because in this whole equation, their perspective is missing. Think about it. You're hearing Minister of Health, you're hearing parents giving them rules about stuff, you're hearing World Health Organization, but their perspective is missing.
Yes. So, Andrea, as we always do, we want to be able to get into a Q&A. And of course, those who are viewing during the live, we want to hear from you too. So please post your questions in the comment section below, because we're going to be going through as many of them as we can during this live conversation about how parents can support positive peer relations. Andrea, you wanted to say something?
There was one I know the kids would love.
Okay.
They have the new online parties. It is a different way of them interacting with their music and stuff at home. At least they can feel like if they are, closer with their friends. And of course, children who don't have devices are not only suffering academically, but they are suffering because of lack of contact with their peers.
Right.
So let's go to some of the questions.
Yeah, so even before we go to a question, we're going to take a pause and just take a word from our sponsor, and then we're going to go directly into our Q&A.
Hi everyone. everyone. I am Pamela from the registration desk of Victoria Literacy Center. Just letting you know that registration has been extended to the 19th of September. So parents, what that means is if you are registering your child for full-time school with VLC or even additional classes to reinforce what is being offered in public schools, your child will have access to virtual live sessions as well as access to online resources based on the Ministry of Education curriculum requirements. So yes, there is still time for you to register your child. You can send us a message or contact our office at 272-1987.
And welcome back to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show, where we have Andrea Gopaul with us as we discuss building positive peer relations among children and teens. And at this time, we are going directly into our audience Q&A questions. So our first question we have here is, it says, as we know, our children peers make significant impact on them, whether negative or positive. How can parents instill boundaries to maintain the morals and values taught at home?
That is a tough one. Well, the boundaries, I guess, to maintain the moral values taught at home. Wow, that one is hitting me right at home because I have older teenagers who are pushing the boundaries at the moment, even though they have had a firm grounding. This is part of life growing up. You know, they want to experience new things. They want to test boundaries. They want to attempt risk-taking behavior. That is part of the age and stage of their development. And when that happens, it is a sign that they're developing as they should. But I know some of them push it.
Right.
The boundaries for older kids, we are going to use for disciplining reinforcement.
Okay.
If the child has done something that is negative, we have to give a negative consequence that is equal to what was done. We're not going to say, well, they missed their bedtime or their stoops, so we take away their phone for a month.
Right.
That is killing an ant with a sledgehammer, because you know that will drive them crazy. Because as children have told me, taking away their social media is the worst thing you can do to a child. So we need appropriate disciplinary measures that fits whatever was done. If they have done something that is good, on the other hand, we need to praise it. So we praise or reward with something. It could be extra screen time, a later bedtime, a treat, going out, whatever it is. So we change children's behavior by consequences. Negative consequences for negative behavior and positive consequences to reinforce the good ones, no matter what age the child.
Yeah.
Even if it's an older child.
Got it. So our next question asks, how can your child create positive peer relations during this pandemic?
Well, their way out, their way to interact with their peers at the moment is through their social media. So they need to, when they're in their social media, they should try to not bully or gossip others on the chats. And this will help them to relate more positively, because the children do not know what each other are going through. You might be seeing them on their phone and stuff, having fun, you guys gaming and talking about girls and whatever, but you don't know that in their home they don't
Yeah.
have food or whatever it is. So
Right.
at this time in particular, parents could remind their children that they need to be kind, need to be
Yes.
kind to each other.
Yes. And you know, Andrea, one of the things I'm taking away from a lot that you've shared for this evening as it pertains to positive peer relations is recognizing that parents have a significant role in that experience, that children developing the behaviors, the understanding, the attitudes, it does not come automatically or necessarily instinctively. But I think I've really been a large part of what I've been taking away from you is that parents have a significant role in guiding their children to growing in that way and being able to experience and promote and to choose so that they could experience positive peer relations.
Yes.
Our next question says, do peer relations affect the
Um, being in school is not fun. It's not fun because remember, it all goes to the bottom line is we have that need to belong. And sometimes children do things just to belong, things they know is wrong, just to belong. So,
Yeah.
yes, it does affect. Positively, it can affect. I was reading some studies about students who are in groups with competitive students and others who value education and learning, they tend to do better. And if I were to give a personal example, one of my sons was transferred into a school that is well known for academic achievements, and his whole modus operandi changed from his
Okay.
previous school. And now that he is attending UE, he said to me, Mommy, when we have group work, some of them take it so lackadaisically. They're not putting into it because
Right.
what he learned from
Mhm.
being in his very competitive environment and
Yes,
highly productive coming from other schools, some of them didn't value that.
I
So yes,
understand.
it so yes, it
Yeah.
does affect
Mhm.
either way.
Okay, understand. And our final question for the evening says, how should parents react to the negative impact of peer relations on their child?
Hmm. I think our first reaction should be empathy with our child, empathy, because if these peer relations are not going well, it is obvious the child will be feeling some amount of rejection. Nobody likes to feel rejection. They can be feeling lonely. So, parents ought to empathize with their child and listen to their feelings.
Yeah,
And then the parent needs to become the advocate for the child. Reach out for help in the relevant places, whether you let the school principal know the challenges, your school guidance officer, whether it is your church youth group leader, let seek the help that can be encouraging for the
right.
child. You advocate for your child and have empathy. And it's not something we can say snap out of.
Yeah,
That hurt they are feeling or that rejection because it is one of the rejection is one of the deepest things that we can feel, and if
yes,
our pair relations are not going well, we are not well. Yeah.
understood. Yeah. So even as we come to a close on this conversation, what final thoughts do you have to share that you believe parents should know and understand regarding um, building and supporting positive peer relation among their children?
Do not feel rejected when your child is pulling away. That is natural. And also understand that the value to the child, it is incomparable. They need their peers, and it is extremely, extremely important to them. So do not undervalue it, or you're just playing, you're just talking on the phone. It is like the most important thing to them.
Got it. Yes, Andrea, thank you as always for joining us for another episode. And we're just really sharing a wealth of knowledge that parents can use to support how they're able to encourage their kids and just build them up, even as we all go through this time in this COVID recovery state that we're in. So I really appreciate you bringing your time. And of course, we want to thank the audience, mummies, daddies, aunties, uncles. Thank you for taking time to join us for yet another episode of the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. As a bi-weekly show, it's streamed digitally each week right here on this channel. So we want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share. And we really want to encourage you to share, because when you share this video, whether it's to your own personal profile or you share the link to any of your colleagues, your friends, fellow parents like yourself, it brings awareness to the work that we're doing here on the Caribbean Parenting Digital platform. And as well, you bring valuable information to those who just might need it. So we appreciate that you've tuned in for this episode as we've discussed developing positive peer relations among children and teens. We want to encourage you, if for any reason you missed last week's episodes, we had two really awesome conversations, one with Alta as we gave observance to International Literacy Day, and another great conversation with Lifeline as we looked at World Suicide Prevention. So we want to encourage you, if you've not seen those episodes, please go back, scroll, look for it. It's there, search for it, Caribbean Parenting Digital, because they were two information-packed episode that we want you to benefit, you want to experience, and we hope that you would share so somebody who needs that information can definitely experience having it. So my name is Alina Lewis. I thank you for being here with us, and until next time, take care.
Hi everyone, I am Pamela from the registration desk of Victoria Literacy Center. Just letting you know that registration has been extended to the 19th of September. So parents, what that means is if you are registering your child for full-time school with VLC or even additional classes to reinforce what is being offered in public schools, your child will have access to virtual live sessions as well as access to online resources based on the Ministry of Education curriculum requirements. So yes, there is still time for you to register your child. You can send us a message or contact our office at 272-1987.